just start with say and spell your name.
Edward Gay Gauthier.
Nice.
And my last name is Gauthier.
I-E-R. Does that mean you're from here, from Louisiana?
Yeah, I'm from Jennings originally.
Oh, okay. What was that like?
Grew up there for 18 years, went through Jennings High School.
Mm-hmm.
My family, there was a lot of Gauthiers at the time. Now there's no Gauthiers in Jennings at all.
Oh, yeah.
My dad was chief of police for 27 years, and I hung out in a police station a whole lot,
Yeah.
you know, and yeah, rode bicycle around town, had a paper route, kind of. It was a wonderful little place to grow up,
Yeah.
you know, good old South Louisiana, carpetbagger town.
Yeah.
You know.
So a paper route, that means, what, 4:30?
No, I would do it after school.
Oh, that's true. They had an evening edition.
Mm-hmm. Jennings Daily News, yeah. It shocked my parents. They suddenly realized that I had earned the $400 for a motor scooter that they had promised that I could pay for it myself.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and they thought, oh, you got it?
Oh, so you got a motor scooter?
Yeah, I got a motor scooter. It was a wonderful life.
Are you a speed demon then?
I can be at times.
Yeah.
My wife is the one that tells me to slow down now and then.
Fair enough.
But mostly safe, you know.
Yeah. So did you have any siblings growing up?
I'm an only child. There was me and Spots, the dog, and that was it. And he's long gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had plenty of cousins. My dad was from a family of 8, my mom from a family of 13, so I had cousins all over the place, and still get together with them pretty often. You know.
So is the old adage true, like whenever, let's say, a preacher's kid is always the worst one, it's always the bad kid?
Yeah.
Is that the same as police?
I tend to look for ways to break the rules.
Yeah.
You know, it was, I don't know. I at one point told my dad I wanted to be a Marine. He had been a U.S. Marine for the Second World War, and he said, no, you don't want to do that, or I'll beat your butt. I said, wow, okay. And I thought about lawyer, but I don't know, just didn't do it. For a while I trained to be a priest. I was 2.5 years in seminary. That didn't fit real well. There were some unfortunate events that occurred, some inconsistencies that I came upon. It played with my self-confidence a bit, and after a while I said, no, not this. Got out and came to UL and became a school teacher, got an education degree, and I taught school for 31 years. I retired 5 years ago.
It's already been 5 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's gone quick.
Wow. So why education?
When I was getting out of the seminary, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I was going to get out. There was little rumors that went around the seminary of who was getting out, and we had about 6 or 7 of us that would get together and drink coffee late at night because we were all leaving. And they knew what they wanted to be, and I had no idea. And I had gone to a psychologist, a guy named William Sorum. He was really good. And he kind of helped me build up my self-confidence over about a 6-week period. And he said, now I want you to take an aptitude test just to go, you know, there's no right answers. You just kind of find out what you're talented in. And the lady that I took it with said, you know, you'd be really good as a teacher. And I thought about it. I've had aunts and uncles that had been in that profession. A lot of the family tended to be nurses and teachers. Mm-hmm. And so I said, well, you know, I'll give it a shot. Worked. That's all I can say. The courses at UL were kind of not the strongest, but good enough. And then once you get into the field, you kind of, you talk to a lot of the teachers and you get the hang of not letting a kid control your day, stuff like that. How to handle discipline without killing someone, you know. You know, I got used to it. And got to where I could pick at the kids. In the last 7 years, I taught at Karen Crow High School at the AOIT Computer Academy. I was teaching programming, C++ programming, hardware, more or less how to tear a computer apart and put it back together. Networking, I'd make them build their own networks from scratch, and then video graphics,
Yeah.
and that kind of drug me into coming around here and seeing you guys and
Yeah.
operating cameras and, you know, doing stuff like that. So.
How did that happen? How did you, you said you started getting involved with AOC at Karen
Well,
Crowe.
Kid Becknell knew about you, and what's his name? I forget. There's another person whose name I'm blanking on right now.
Sure.
Chris, Watipka. He comes around, and they were both, you know, there a lot. Kit was my the head of the department I was in, and Chris came through helping us with all kind of projects. He does a lot of video graphics, and so, you know, both of them were saying you ought to go over to AOC and join up and use their equipment and figure out what kind of mischief they're into. And so I did, and I was encouraging some of the kids in the classes to become Comp TIA certified and get various kind of certifications in this area. And a few of them did, and in order to do that, I said, go by AOC, and so some of them came by, took part in some of your projects, signed up as members, that kind of thing. And I even got sucked into a couple of their videos that they were making. They put some YouTube graphics videos together and did crazy things like that.
That was actually our first, I want to say our first co-op group. That group of mainly
students.
boys. Yeah, that came.
Yeah.
You used the right word earlier. You said mischief.
Oh, yeah.
Good mischief.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, they found the mischief.
Yeah, I'd walk into my class and the first thing I'd say every time, all right, you scallywags, sit down and get quiet. And they got used to me calling them that.
Yeah,
You know.
I liked it.
They still Facebook me, you know, scallywag.
So what was your first impression of AOC?
AOC I liked. I mean, the equipment is really good equipment. It's kind of ahead of of what I was teaching. You know, in high school you get basic start-out courses, and you guys are quite a bit distance ahead of that. And so it was good for the kids to come here and take a look at a more professional studio, the way television programs happen, the scheduling, how to operate the equipment, the courses you offer, the workshops. I know a few of them sat in and learned some editing on. We were using PCs and Adobe Premiere Pro, whereas over here you guys tend to use Macintosh and the Apple line of computers and Final Cut. And so, you know, it's a little bit different, but there's a lot of similarities too. But it kind of broadened their horizons, and they were able to sit down and plan out some videos and ideas, some shots that they wanted to get in on certain movies. And it was fun, you know. A couple of them are still on YouTube, where I get my pocket picked.
So you remember that.
You know.
So what surprised you most about AOC?
I guess the involvement in the community. When I first got involved, I remembered seeing cameras on stage at, say, Festival International, but I just didn't associate it with you folks. And so, you know, there was that. And then I realized, hey, maybe I could get up there and operate a camera. You know, that'd be fun.
And you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That has been a lot of fun. And then the Threshold program we were talking about earlier, where you'd have the bands come in here once a month, and I would help do some of the timing on it, and you know, we'd see our way through that, watch the direction happen. Directing, kind of an interesting connection between. I had never known really what a director did in a TV studio.
Right.
You know, I got a real good taste of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a lot of coordination. A lot of coordination, a lot of teamwork that has to happen, a lot of co-op stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So what's your dream project to work on or to produce?
A dream?
Yeah,
project?
dream
Ooh,
project.
boy.
Do you have a dream project?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm in
Tell
a
me.
little bit of a different art. I'm a writer. I'm finishing my second novel right now, and I'm pretty sure it'll be published, I don't know by who, by, say, August. Right now I have finished it, and I'm doing sort of final edits, going through, and changing the voice of this character and that kind of thing. So my projects tend to start from that. Anything I would do in video, when we did videos when I was still teaching in high school, we would have to write them out first. You know, you'd have to at least get out some index cards and kind of draw out your scenes and give me some idea of what was going to go down. And sometimes we would just do the cards.
Yeah.
We would just photograph them and kind of put them together in a movie.
You animated.
Yeah, right. So I don't know, dream project. Wow. Yeah. I would like to kind of stick around here and maybe coordinate with Jacob and some of the other guys running around you and some of the creatives here and see what they've got and, you know, kind of be the fly on the wall. And I would probably be in a very big learning situation, you know, taking it in. But it's an interesting field. I mean, there's so much room for whatever. Yeah. Right now, I'm doing the video for concerned citizen meetings, and they occur twice a month. And it's basically things that have to do with Lafayette, politics, education, social stuff sometimes, whether we're going to build the I-49, Y-49 connector, those kind of things. And what I'm doing is just basically, kind of like right now, talking head kind of video. But sometimes you get people coming through that are just complete databases of knowledge concerning the area. D. Stanley was amazing to watch when he was running for mayor, because you could ask the man any conceivable question about the town and he would bang right away come up with it. Or if you're on environmental science and the environment around here, you talk with Harold Scheffler and he'll knock you down with all the stuff he knows. You know, there's people that know the entire electrical system of the town like the back of their hand, you know what I mean? And we've interviewed some of those and it's just amazing to see how much knowledge these people are walking around with that the rest of us don't even suspect. You know, I used to live next door to Mike Oye, and he helps to do the city planning, and all the streets and the lights, you know, and all that congestion sometimes. You know, I'm like, wow, man, y'all got a challenge. You know, it's a big deal. So it's been an eye opener. Yeah. My part of it's been pretty simple. Get the video, edit the video, get it to you guys, and put it on YouTube.
Capturing the knowledge.
You know, we've opened up a YouTube channel for concerned citizens, so we're putting it on there too. And we're trying to figure out how to maybe do a Facebook page or something like that, get a little more exposure. Yeah. See what happens.
So do you want to tell me about your book?
Oh, goodness.
If you want. You don't have
I can. It's a very simple premise. I wrote the short story for it maybe 14 or 15 years ago. And it didn't seem quite strong enough to send it out for publication, but so I never deleted anything. I just stuck it away. But then I got to rereading it, and what attracted me to it was the voice that the character had. It came out pretty authentic and seemed to have a power to hold the reader. So it's basically a high school kid that is out smoking marijuana with his friends at night on a school night, and they have found an old railroad switch that just ends, you know, and they're out in the dark out there in moonlight, and they're smoking and choking around with each other, 5 of them. And this one kid gets a voice in his head that's not his voice. It just starts up. And the voice speaks to him, which freaks him out, of course. And the book kind of goes from there. Yeah. He's basically has to talk to this voice. The voice answers. It has its own consciousness. He cannot control it. And the book basically is the path they have to go on together to figure out what the hell happened for the voice to get in his head, and can they undo it?
Yeah, so. Sounds interesting.
We'll see. I've had a few people read it, and so far I'm getting good answers, good people coming back and saying, you know, this has got something, I don't know. So I'm going to throw it to the wolves in a couple of months and see what happens.
That's scary, yeah.
See who likes it.
Have you always been a writer then?
Yeah, still got my first third grade poem.
Yeah.
Mary had a little car. She drove in manner deft. At third grade, I used the word
Wow.
deft. But every time she signaled right, the little car turned left. And so the poem goes on and on,
Yeah.
and she, you know, she does some stuff with it, and she
Mhm.
kind of likes it, kind of doesn't like it. She gets in a ditch and gets it fixed. And then it ends up to where the final stanza is something like, now Mary still has her car. It seems to drive all right, but every time she signals left, the little car turns right. And so
Every time.
I ended up just reversing it. But yeah, I've still got it on the big line paper,
Yeah.
written with the
Wow, you
large
kept
pencil.
it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
stuck it away.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of piddled around with writing poetry. I've published, last year I published 6 different things.
I
And it was a
never
good
knew.
year.
Yeah. And
it
you
wa-
married a librarian.
I
Right.
did. She wasn't always that way.
Ah, fair enough.
She worked her way into being a librarian while we were married.
Yeah.
But yeah, Anna's quite an exciting person just because she puts up with me,
Yeah.
for one. And we met and got into sailing at the time I was building a sailboat. And she was gutsy enough to go sailing with me for a week out in the Gulf of Mexico.
Wow.
And we hit a storm, made it through. She was, you know, she wasn't going to be put off by other things that are unexpected coming about, so I figured I better keep her, you know.
Mhm.
And in 2004, she sailed across the North Atlantic with me,
I had
and
no clue.
wrote an article about that, published it. But yeah, she's a solid woman.
Yeah.
She's got 2 college degrees, well, 3, 2 bachelors, and then she went back to LSU, got the master's degree in library science. And she's had a little bit of contact with AOC. I know she knows Ed, and I know she's always got projects cooking up in her head.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
One of the short stories I'm working on is about a librarian. So.
As it should be. Very cool.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
She has one of my I should say one of my dream jobs. I have several, but is to be a children's librarian. That's you walk
really?
into a children's library and it's just magical.
I can tell you right now, if you walked into Lafayette Public Library, any one of
know.
them, and said that,
Yeah.
they would rope you in in a second. You'd be drug into the
I
building.
Well, I have to go back to get more education for my other dream jobs too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do love it though. I don't know a mom that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't love kids' libraries though too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Sorry. I had to
No problem.
interject that.
Anna did children's librarian for a while,
Yeah.
enough to kind of burn herself out a little bit with it. But
Uh-oh.
she taught 3rd grade for a bunch of time, a bunch of
yeah.
years, 11 years. So
Wow.
and then she went to the library, and
Yeah.
it kind of fit. So
Yeah.
she did that.
Very cool. Awesome. What are you looking forward to in 2017?
Well, I want to go to the international festival and be on stage with the cameras.
Done.
So, I think for me personally, the most important thing is I'm kind of in a limbo right now. Once I get a project decided on and I start writing it, then I'm good. You know, I've got the discipline and the routine. I write about 4 to 6 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and I can do that. To me, that's a lot of fun. I enjoy. I go to coffee shops and just write.
Sure.
That's usually where I see Ed and Ed Bowie but right now, since I'm finishing Director Guy, the thing is what to write next.
Yeah.
And that's like this wrestling process. I haven't quite figured out a method to decide on how to put together the next project. So it's been a wrestling match. I feel like I'm making some headway in it, but for me, that's one of the big things for this year.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to Iowa Writers Workshop. I've been 4 years in a row. This will be my 5th year.
Yeah.
Their summer writing workshop is really good. So I'm going to do that. And hopefully by August I'll have put Director Guy out for publication and then started a new project, a new novel. We'll see.
Very cool. I like it.
So it's going to be busy, I think.
Yeah. So what are you reading right now, since you're a writer? I always like to know what writers are reading.
I'm glad you asked. There is a writer named Anthony Marra, M-A-R-R-A, and he's written a Constellation of Vital Phenomena is the name of the novel. If Shakespeare were alive today, he'd be writing like this guy, I think. And I've studied a lot of Shakespeare.
I'm writing that down.
And yeah, Constellation of Vital Phenomena was his novel. And then he wrote a book of short stories, The Czar of Love and Techno. And some titles, huh? And just phenomenally good writing. I've read them both. I'm rereading them both. And the other thing I'm working on, one of my bachelor's degrees is in psychology. And I'm reading Man and His Symbols by Carl Jung. And it's just a phenomenal thing, I think, that he contributed to mankind, really. The ability to begin the understanding of the subconscious. One of my novels sprung from a statement he made in that book, that whenever he interpreted his dreams, he had to imagine himself going into a certain space in order to interpret them. And he had like this mental room he would kind of go into, right? And so I tried to develop a similar space and ended up with a floating platform in space, you know, and went off into the science fiction thing. I don't know what'll ever happen to that book. I wrote it and I just kind of went, and put it aside. But we'll see.
Yeah. Cool.
And you know, I've got a shelf full of books that I've read. Kevin Brockmeyer's a good one. And then, of course, Ursula Le Guin. She wrote a lot of science fiction. She writes incredibly well. She taught at University of San Francisco. And I'm not sure if she's still alive. If she is alive, she would be upper 90s. You know, she'd be very old.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, the classic writers, Thomas Wolfe, The Comrade Angel. I've kind of, I don't know, I'm always got a book in my hand at some point or another.
Cool. When you were a child, what were your favorite books or movies or singers, sports heroes, any of those? Whatever you were interested in.
My first book, my mom brought me to the library. I was, I think, in first grade. And I got a little book called The Wright Brothers. And it was that story about the first airplane flight. I was hooked. And I was into comics a lot. I had stacks and stacks of comic books. Me and the LeBlue twins down the street, Sheila and Sharon LeBlue, we'd had wagon loads we'd trade wagon loads of comic books, you know. And music, when Elvis Presley came out, you know, I was like, okay, what is this? And, you know, he really caught my eye. I was into a lot of the Motown, the black singers that came out. Otis Redding was a you know, wonderful influence. Got into the Beatles. When I was in college, I played guitar and I taught the Beatles to little kids that I would put a motorcycle, I had a motorcycle and put the guitar across my lap and drive to their house, teach at their house, because their moms felt more comfortable if they had the lesson at home. Get $10 an hour and, you know, made my way through school, through college for the last year and a half doing that. But Paul Simon, It's a big influence. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Of course, Bob Dylan. I don't know if have you heard the latest Paul Simon song called Wristband?
I wonder if Matt has.
Oh God, Wristband.
Look at
It's on YouTube. You can see it. It is incredible, and it addresses the political situation now, with Trump being elected and people being a bit getting used to that. And you know, he's a phenomenal artist. He just doesn't quit. Just keeps pumping away new stuff. You know, I love that. I saw him perform live a couple times. It was a real treat.
Oh yeah, definitely. Very cool. So what else is on your playlist? If you could have one playlist for the rest of your life, what else is on there?
Oh, right. I'm going to be writing. I'm sure I'll be writing the day I die, probably.
I meant music. I'm sorry.
Oh,
confused.
from music?
Yeah. If you, yeah. What else is on your playlist? I love the answer though. He's writing for the rest of your life.
Well, it'll probably be in the music field. It would probably be artists who have decent lyrics.
It's true. Yeah.
You know,
all those
Dylan
you named
is going to have good poetry to go in the song. Paul Simon will too, and I'm going to be attracted to those kind of things. And the presentation of the music that has to kind of flow with those words. You know, they have to complement each other a lot. A lot of times you get songs where the sound of the music is really groovy, but you can't quite even understand the words. You know, or every once in a while it's the other way around. You know, but that's probably I piddle away at guitar. I don't think I'll ever be any good at it, but because I don't practice it enough. You know, it's a fun thing to do, relax with.
Yeah, exactly.
But I have friends who have made, you know, Mike Ducey. He and I hung around together a lot when we were just finishing up college. I won't mention all the crazy things that went down.
Oh, come on.
But and a friend of mine, Richard Domang, was into music a whole lot, and he's passed away now. But he had a band out in California called Gator Beat. You know, and it was fun to go out there and visit him.
Yeah.
So.
Very cool. Who were your childhood heroes?
Superman.
Nice.
Yeah. John Kennedy, when I was in high school, he ran for president, and I actually pounded the pavement and got out and campaigned, handed out pamphlets for him.
In high school?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And wore a pin. You know, some of the kids at school were mocking me for it, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm into it, too bad. You know. So when I walked into my junior year physics class, and Mr. Simmons had to stand before us and say he had been shot.
Oh, yeah.
It just killed us. You know? We felt, I mean, there were people crying all over the place. And that was the year I read, interestingly enough, about a dog, Jack London, White Fang. And in that book, White Fang gets in a fight with a bulldog and gets chewed up pretty bad. And that was the year I learned that you can have heroes, but you know, they're going to get knocked down. And then later on, of course, Martin Luther King, you know, Bobby Kennedy, that whole the Kent State thing. I was very much influenced by the Vietnam War. We protested against it. I don't know that we did any good, but we protested against it, you know. And I guess I've learned as much from anti-heroes as I have from heroes, you know. Lyndon Johnson taking over from Kennedy and pushing the Vietnam War, you know, we struggled with that, and then Nixon. I went to a couple of the conventions, the political conventions, one in Miami, and wow, and I made Chicago, It was, I don't know, you had heroes in it mixed up with anti-heroes, and it was just quite a conglomeration of influence, you know. So I kind of didn't exactly trust the category of hero,
Yeah.
you know,
Especially during
because there's no more kings, you know. I'm looking for a world that's like co-op, co-ops. Let the workers own it, and we'll figure it out. We'll get it right. Who knows?
What's your superpower?
My superpower?
Your superpower.
I don't know that I really have one, but I think the closest thing to that, when I came out of the seminary, I was very confused, and I began to toss out God. I read that the philosopher Spinoza, which is, I think he lived around 700 or 800 AD, had suggested godless religions. And that was kind of an interesting concept to me. And I got to reading about Buddhism. I was a junior in college at the time, or sophomore in college, I forget which. And I've been a Buddhist now for 40 years. At one point, my wife and I went out to California and lived in a Buddhist monastery for a while. And so I have kind of leaned on that pretty hard. It suits me, it fits, it's a better cloak for me to put on, I guess you could say. And I think what attracted me the most was that I read a little story about the Buddha walking through the dusty paths of India from village to village, and he'd go into a village, start talking to the people, and they would ask him, "What kind of God are you?" And he would say, "Don't do that. Don't make me into a God. I'm a person." You know. And that got my attention. So as far as superpowers go, I guess that's, I don't know, it's another category I'm a little leery of, you know? But that's probably the closest to it.
Okay. What's one thing about you that few people know?
That few people know? Oh my goodness.
That you want to say on
That I'm
camera.
willing to tell.
I always feel like I have to say that.
Yeah.
You're willing to have on camera.
I'm such a loudmouth sometimes. I've kind of blared out all my secrets as it is. My wife knows everything, so don't go talking to her. But I don't know. That's a tough question.
You don't. Yeah, we can skip it if you want.
I really don't know.
You're an open book.
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe too much sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to be more guarded. I don't know. Who knows?
Let's see. What inspires you?
Story. I think it's so integral to writing. It's what you write.
Yeah.
By reading this author I was talking about earlier, Anthony Mara, I got to kind of taking a paragraph or two at a time and saying, now, what is the guy really doing? And it began to hit me that the way that we humans experience life on a moment-by-moment basis, the way we experience time, is we recall things that happen to us. And there's always a story that goes with it. You know, I can recall my dad pushing me on my bicycle to teach me how to do it. And we both ended up in the ditch, you know. And I can, you know, and so that's a mark. That whole story becomes a little mark. And you get you know, those all in a line. This happened first, and then that next story happened first, and that's how we, humans, really handle
Yeah.
our life,
Yeah.
time, and then after a while we begin to put this on it.
Yeah.
You know, the
Way
numbers,
to ruin it.
and you know, we stick it on a month or a day of the month or the year,
Yeah.
which, you know, that's just our mathematical mind kicking in, I guess. But I think that that's the thing that pushes me is those stories.
Mhm.
I want to get to those, and I want to get to know the characters that are involved with them.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, who are some of your favorite characters?
Oh goodness.
Side note.
Well, if you read Kurt Vonnegut, you're going to hit a lot of them.
Okay.
His stories. I saw some of his manuscripts up at University of Iowa. He and F. Scott Fitzgerald and a bunch of good writers went to University of Iowa at Iowa City, and they kept some of the manuscripts and the actual notebooks those guys had. And his writings about Slaughterhouse Five and being caught in an underground meat locker, more or less, when the Americans were bombing Dresden. And then he comes out of the meat locker, him and the 2 or 3 guys that were guarding him, old German soldiers that had rifles that didn't even work, you know. And they come out, and those Germans just fell down on their knees and started crying. And he was totally amazed that the city he had just seen an hour or 2 ago was just gone. Those kind of characters, the kind of characters that have a little bit of magical realism in them. There's this one writer, Richard Brautigan. He was from San Francisco area. Lived back in the day of Haight-Ashbury and LSD and all those experiments. And he wrote a little short story, The Weather in San Francisco. And in it, an old woman just simply goes into a butcher shop and she just wants to buy, you know, something at the butcher shop. And the author, Richard Brautigan, says, now, of course, what would an old woman like this want with, you know, with meat? You know, maybe she has 500 bees at home that are waiting for her, golden bees that she could feed. And you know, it just puts out such strange ideas, but they become sort of magical. And I think that element is real important, that we have to find that in our life that just sort of makes us bloom. You know, it just makes us kind of come out of ourselves. And he had a nice tact for doing that. He wrote a book called The Monkey Wrench Gang, which is more or less how to give the government a hard time.
Appropriate name.
Yeah, made it into a novel.
Yeah. Very cool. What achievement are you most proud of?
Proud of? Well, I don't know. My 2 sons, I think, Andre and Emil. They're in their 30s now. Best work I've ever done. We had both boys at home. They were home births.
Wow.
And I don't know. It was interesting because I taught at the schools, mainly at Beauchesne, when Andre was coming through there. And it was interesting kind of watching them go down the halls, you know, and go to their teachers, and then talking with the teacher later, you know, and seeing how they were doing, checking up on them. I'm very proud of my wife, my relationship with my wife. I think I did okay with my parents. We didn't bruise each other up too badly. You know, they're passed away now. But I think my relationships, I have some pretty good friends, pretty close friends. that, and I got to go back to writing. You know, I'm kind of stuck in that groove.
Once a writer, always a writer.
Yeah, I think so.
How would you like to be remembered?
I don't know that I would tell anybody that. That's up to them. Whatever, you know, it's none of my business. You know, that people, I'm going to let them operate their own brains. They remember me the way they remember me.
You'll
Maybe,
have a little.
maybe I had a bad influence on a few of them. There's a couple won't talk to me. You know.
I'll turn your words back on you. You'll have a little magical realism
Yeah,
there.
yeah, maybe. But I don't think I would tell people how to remember me or the way I want to be remembered. I would just let them do it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be gone. What do I care? But yeah, I think I would just leave that one up to them.
One final question.
Okay.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
In 3 words.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Describe myself in 3 words.
Can be 3 separate words or 3 words together.
Well,
I've seen both.
I'll have to tell you a little joke that goes with it.
Fair enough.
But I would start out by saying, "Meh, stop, Dad." And the joke that goes with it, you've heard the old statement, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Well, the Cajun version of that is, "Man, stop, Dad."
That's funny. I've never heard that.
Yeah, one of my fellow teachers over at Karen Crow High School
That's nice. Yeah.
came up with that one.
I like it. Very cool. You done?